So I got some questions about lower back issues from being in tack gear, duty gear, and staying in a seated position for basically the duration of a shift. So if this is my makeshift driver's seat, you can see here I'm sitting with good posture, right? Or at least decent posture, and then here I'm sitting with real good posture, but you can tell that if I'm driving a vehicle, whether it's a Tahoe, an Impala, or an armored vehicle, like that's not a feasible position to drive in when you're on duty. So where do we end up typically is here, and then not active, but really slouched, inactive, and off tension. So we spend a lot of time in flexion, spinal flexion, and then shorten hip flexors, just an overall bad position. So over time, that's gonna develop really bad activation and shortness of the anterior hip. Your quads are gonna get real short and tight. Your low abs are gonna shut off, and your glutes are basically gonna shut off from sitting on them so long. So everything that's not on tension is just gonna be screwed, okay? So on our off time, how do we undo that bad time? So I'm gonna show you a little bit of banded distractions so that we can kind of undo some of that, right? So you can see that those are just a few ways that you can work some different corners and get into that hip complex, which is going to effectively, hopefully, like add range of motion and ease of movement to that extension flexion of the lower back, which is where we get stuck in that. So the whole thing is getting out of being stuck in flexion under compressive load for hours and hours and hours at a time, okay? Which is way easier said than done, because the massive amounts of time commitment that we're required to be in gear, in flexion, in a car, in a vehicle. So again, the question always has to be, how do we undo some of the bad time? And then making sure that we add in elements of decompression, spinal decompression whenever we can. So stuff like belt squat, reverse hyper, GHD. And if you don't have access to those, then I'll show you on the next video some tricks on how to work around with some of that stuff.